Boy, this ain't out. Okay, we're going to call a regular board meeting of February the 11th to order, and we're going to start out with the invocation. We have to ask everyone to stand, and I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance after that. Alderman Barnhill, would you give the invocation?
Heavenly Father, we again come to you in prayer tonight. Thank you for this opportunity and for this great nation that we live in. For all the freedoms that we have, we give you the blessings for these. We also ask that you be with each of us tonight as we make decisions that ultimately affect the direction in which the city of Franklin will go. Give us spiritual wisdom and guidance. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4 is an opportunity for citizens to speak on grievances or statements for issues that are not on the agenda. This time is now available. I don't see anyone, so we'll move on for communication from the Williamson County Mayor or Williamson County Commission. I see no one. We'll move on to approval of the minutes from January 28, 2014 work session and January 28, 2014 Board of Mayor and Aldermen. I would consider a motion.
Move for approval.
Appropriate motion.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Berger. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Special recognition tonight. The Government Finance Officers Association awarded the City of Franklin its Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for 2014 budget for the 6th year in a row. According to the GFOA, the award represents a significant achievement by the city and reflects the commitment of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and staff to meeting the highest principles of governmental budgeting. Stacy Woodard in the Finance Department had been the unanimous selection to accept the award tonight. Her work with administration and each of the departmental budget teams is a significant reason why this award was achieved. She is unable to be here tonight, so as a substitute, we have Mike Lowe, who's the city comptroller, and here to accept this on behalf. So, congratulations. We're proud of the work you've done. Thank you.
6 in a row. And it's 60. I can't take it.
Okay, are there any miscellaneous reports? Seeing none, we'll move on to consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are deemed to be non-controversial, routine in nature. I would consider a motion for approval of items 11 through 16, or a motion that would, Alderman Peterson.
I move for approval for the consent agenda, except that number 12 be deferred until our February 25th meeting.
Second.
Appropriate motion second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is item number 10, consideration of requested road impact fee agreement with Embry Partners Limited for the Artesa development. In your packet, you have a number of different options that have been put forward by staff to consider. Alderman Berger.
I move for approval of option 2, but I would like to have I'd like to offer an amendment to the percentage. Once someone would second it, I would like.
I would second that.
All right. The amendment I'd like to offer would be, first of all.
Can you just not make a pure motion that you want?
Yeah. I want to make a motion to amend it to 50%. And I'll give my reasons why then if I get a second.
Alderman Bransford's already seconded.
That's okay. First of all, we do have a policy that allows for the offset. Now, that doesn't promise the developer the offset, but we do offer that. Our policy allows it. this development is not the only one that impacts that area. More development will be coming across the street from Cool Springs that'll be feeding into that light that they're going to put up. The other thing is, it wasn't really dealt with. We had talked about this at one of the work sessions. We really didn't deal with this. This wasn't dealt with so much up front with the developer at the time, and they were they understood the offset policy, and that they would probably receive some type of offset. So I think, being unclear with that, I would like for us to go forward. I know that Dana had spoken to this during one of our work sessions about being a little bit more clear up front, to be specific, that we are clear and we clarify these things up front with the developer so that there's no question when it comes to us. And that's why I'm offering a 50% for my amendment, because I believe that when I was talking with them, with staff out there, and those things were discussed, I think that since we didn't deal with this up front and it wasn't clear, that I would be more comfortable making that amendment.
I'm a bit confused by your amendment, but let me just
Instead
restate
of
what I think
69.
that you're saying. That direct staff
Sure.
prepared a road impact fee offset agreement for 50% of the requested amount to allow for an offset for the amount of traffic generated from other developments having
Right.
direct access onto Windcross Court.
Right, rather
Alderman
than
Martin.
70%.
This development was not initiated by the city, and there was a great deal of discussion about this because of the location and Jordan Road and all of that. But when it was presented, I did not ever hear of one dime that would be paid by the city, not one dime. It was my understanding that this was one of the conditions of approval, that they would place the traffic signal there. Had that not been made clear to me, I thought at the time, I probably would not have voted for this at all. I have heard from a good many residents here and out there, taxpayers, that do not think that we should put one penny into that traffic signal. It's true that other people may come and develop. It may happen in the morning. It may happen in 10 years. We don't know. But I will not support this.
Alderman Barnhill.
Two or three things, and I think Margaret has covered a couple of those. You know, I have a little bit of a problem in just, excuse me, Beth, just reaching up in the air and pulling out a number without some reasoning for doing that other than I feel that it's right. That's number one. Number two, if you go back and look at option 4, it says no signal was ever planned at this intersection. It says the proposed signalization is a benefit of the side street, which it is not a benefit to the arterial road work network, which it is not. That means that every person who does not use Windcross is being inconvenienced with an additional traffic light there. And not only are they being inconvenienced, but because they are the ratepayer and the taxpayer, they're also paying for their inconvenience. There's no reason. There's a very, very small reason, possibly, in the fact that this development is paying more than any of the others, but that's just happened to be the way that it happens. And I'm not going to support option 2 at 50% or 69%. I will support option 4, which says do not approve an offset agreement based upon the following information. Two of those things I just read to you. I won't read you the rest of them, but I will support no offset fee payments.
Vice Mayor Peterson.
Two things that I want to say that have been talked about, and then I'll give my other comments. First of all, the rezoning for this had absolutely no effect on whether the traffic signal would be needed. It was going to be, there was at least as much traffic going to be coming in as a result of the previous zoning there. It was office. So the rezoning really did not increase the traffic. The second thing is, no signal was ever proposed. If you remember, later in our discussion at the work session, and it's in the minutes, said that maybe no signal was proposed whenever Cool Springs Boulevard was first built, but certainly once the land use plan in there, became apparent in terms of office and other commercial, that there was going to need to be a traffic signal there. So the idea that it was never proposed was really at the very beginning of Cool Springs Boulevard. In later years, I'm sure that was not the case, that people would see the numbers would indicate that there would need to be a signal. On the amount of money here, my feeling was that at least there would be probably as much traffic generated on the fourth leg of this, the north access to Cool Springs, as there was on this one. And so I was trying to come up with some way that maybe they would have to pay 50% of what the total cost would be, which they said was around, $500,000 or more, somewhere there. But in talking, I understand that there's really no way to kind of offset that with the other side. The traffic coming from the northern side of Cool Springs. It is very difficult to come to a percentage. However, I do not think that signalization ought to just fall on the last one coming in, which is what's happening here, or perhaps even the first one coming in, which can happen in some other places. Probably something, that it fits more in is with the Public Works access roadway, where the city is paying half, and in Longview, I believe, is the development across the street there is paying half. So maybe what is proposed here would be just as good. I think if they paid half, they wouldn't get quite this much offset there, but I don't know how to come up with a better number.
What can you do?
Alderman Skinner.
Mr. Mayor, I wanted to ask procedurally, for those of us that would be in favor of option 4, do we ask for this as an amendment, or do we have to defeat what's on the floor now and then propose option 4 as the next item?
I think we would vote this up or down and then consider a new motion.
Okay. I think staff has laid out the reasoning for why they're recommending option 4. And barring there not be a policy for some future cost sharing, I think we're jumping at setting a precedent in front of policy. And I think this is a bad precedent now that we will negotiate after the fact of approving a development. If we want to come back and discuss this later about how we divvy this up like we do the sewer costs, then let's do it. But let's not set the precedent tonight to encourage future developers to come and request relief after the fact. The difference in this money that is going to be paid, because they're not going to have to pay all of their road impact fees because of this offset, will be money that we take out of other projects throughout the city, and that's what impact fees are for. It's not just for the nearest project to the intersection to the development. It's for everything. That's why we do the study on the road impact fees. I think this is a mistake, and I'm going to vote no on this.
Any other discussion?
I just want to respond to one thing. I think historically, the city of Franklin has approved these offsets after the approval of the development at least as often as they had them out front, at least as often. Because whenever you look back at some of the things that we have approved offsets for, many times they were after the development itself had already been approved. I do think that that means that we need to review how this works and how the policy goes on that. But this is not really unusual. If you notice here, these things that they have talked about really are mostly for things that are occurring in the future. And it is true that presently our impact fee does allow offsets for traffic signals.
Alderman Bransford.
Just a comment or two here on option 2. With that 50% change, what did that financial impact change to?
That becomes $192,125.
Okay. I too believe that there should be, as Alderman Peterson has so nicely stated, I support that mindset is that a traffic light is needed there, and this is not a precedent. So I will be supporting it.
One final comment. It's somewhat amazing to me that we spent an hour on a road project that we don't have the money for, and yet we want to take the impact fees here that are at best. As far as I'm concerned, I never heard anything about an offset while the project was going forward. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean that we haven't done that in the past. And I'm not suggesting to you that there's not a policy for that allows the developer. But at some point in time, there needs to be that discussion in with the approval process. And I don't ever remember hearing that. Here's my take on that, okay? I believe that as part of the approval process, they agreed to put the light in. They agreed. There may have been additional discussion. If there had not been, they were going to put the light in if needed and pay for the light. That's just part of the approval process. Now, the fact that there's a mechanism that allows them to come back and collect some money on the back end of that is okay. Well, I'd be sitting out there if I could get a dime back from my water bill or anything else as far as that's concerned. That's just not the way it works. I believe that project and that light is all encompassed within their project and is not eligible, but was never discussed as far as road impact fee offsets are concerned. And we've had these discussions before, and some of those discussions have been on other projects, and I've said the same thing on those. If you're going to do this, do it up front. Be part of the project and be part of what you're asking for. But I certainly see no reason for us to go out and have the current ratepayer pay $200,000 for a traffic signal that benefits Windcross Court. And that's it.
Alderman McClendon.
Well, here we are on the horns of another dilemma. There's no question that we have approved projects without quantifying the offset, or even attempting to quantify the offset, or even acknowledging that there would be an offset, and then later approved a road impact fee offset. We have done that. I am not a traffic engineer, but I will say that I think to a layman, it is difficult to me to understand that a traffic signal at this location will not benefit Cool Springs Boulevard, because only in the strictest interpretation could it be said that not getting hit or hitting a car trying to turn onto Cool Springs Boulevard is not a benefit to me. It may be I never go on Windcross Court, but I would rather not play chicken with, 4,000 vehicle trips a day. I do go through that intersection every day, at least once, sometimes twice, maybe more. So the 4,000 cars that will be regulated by a traffic signal, even though I never go on Windcross Court, I feel a benefit there, with all due respect to the other aldermen. Now, here's what I remember when we had the long conversation at the work session. The developer, in part, relies upon conversations that were held literally on the side of the road with staff and maybe an alderman. I mean, I get it, but I think we should formalize our process here. And I think from now on, we should not have eligibility lurking in the weeds, okay? If we have a project that is coming forward, that is agreeing to do road, things that will be eligible, I strongly recommend that we require that it be noted that there will be at least eligibility in the project. Because I think, I do agree with Ms. Martin that maybe if they had told me they were going to be asking for almost $400,000 worth of offset, it might have changed the way I voted. I don't know that, and I never will know that, but it might have. And if we know that there are, and traffic signals, you know, you don't realize how expensive it is to put traffic signals in until you foot the bill. So things like traffic signals that are knowable, when we are insisting as a condition of approval that they be placed, I think we should at least drop an asterisk on that and say, will be eligible for offset. That'll keep us out of this bind where some of us, and I think reasonably feel that we're kind of bargaining against ourselves. Because we could certainly sit here and say, you're eligible, but we're saying no. And a reasonable person could say that. At the same time, I start to wonder, well, we've not always done that. We have had, and frankly, I'll bet we could go back and find road impact fee offset agreements that exceeded this, that we approved after the fact. I could be wrong, but I feel like that's probably happened. So I'm torn between, you know, not, to me, it would almost be precedent to begin to say no as a blanket, because that, if we're going to say no unconditionally to any after-the-fact offset request, then we should just remove the eligibility from the books in the first place and not even create the opportunity. But that's not what the rules are. That's not what the rules were at the time this developer got this approval. And it should be noted that this developer, they're asking for an offset against money that they will or have paid or both. I hear what you're saying, Mr. Skinner, but even if they got the entire offset that they've requested, their contributions and impact fees will be double or triple that by the time they're done. So they're asking for a discount on what they're paying, not reimbursement or non-payment. So I'm kind of torn. I agree with Mr. Barnhill too. Picking 50% seems to me to be somewhat arbitrary. On the other hand, these other options, I can't draw a connection between what other people that were under a different set of rules paid and then try to back into a new number. To me, the two that make the most sense are either the full offset or maybe none. And anything else just seems to be kind of horse trading. And I don't really want to run the city that way.
Alderman Berger?
Well, maybe we should do a full offset then, because somebody wants to make that recommendation, but I'm really not comfortable with that, because, this policy needs to be clarified, and I don't think we need to start with this one, because Ann's correct, we have done this before, Dana's correct in what he's been saying, And I recommend we don't do this again. And if we want to throw out the whole darn policy, let's throw it out sometime and start over, because we're messing with it. And we can't lead it, and staff was rightfully so, what they said, that we have a policy, and you can rightfully expect that they will probably give you some kind of offset. They didn't promise it, but they said you can rightfully expect it probably because we have a policy. So I don't have any problem with this, but I certainly wasn't really comfortable with giving them 70%. So I felt 50 was being more realistic, so that's why I supported the 50%. I'll vote for
Call the
this.
question. We just need to go ahead and vote on this.
Yeah.
I call the
Everybody ready to vote?
Yeah.
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I believe that's a 4-4 tie. I vote for the 50% offset.
Mayor, cut the vote.
I need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Actually, I was going to make a motion.
I couldn't get Ken's. Go by myself.
Are there any matters to consider from executive session? Seeing none, is there a motion to dismiss?
So moved.
Second.
Goodbye. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's first.